Today, we're tackling a really tricky idea, something that sits right at the heart of modern warfare. It's this constant battle, this tug of war between a country's safety and the massive pull of private profit. We're calling it the Profiteering Paradox. All right, so let's just start with a really basic question. What is a military for? I mean, when you think about it, what's its true purpose? You probably think of things like national defense, right? Keeping people safe, protecting the country's interests. And yeah, that's absolutely the ideal. But what if that core mission, that ideal of national security, gets all tangled up with something else? Something just as powerful. I'm talking about profit. And that, right there, is the paradox we're digging into. It's this massive tension between the duty to protect and the economic forces that can pull everything in a totally different and sometimes dangerous direction. So here's how we're going to break this all down. We'll start with the paradox itself. Then we'll take a look at the wild world of the global arms trade. After that, we'll get into how the battlefield is being outsourced, talk about something called the revolving door, and finally, we'll see if there's any way to restore the balance. Sound good? Let's get into it. Okay, first up, the profit paradox. This is where that core idea of money meeting mission really comes into focus. You really have to understand the sheer scale of the money we're talking about here. It's not thousands, not millions. We're talking about trillions of dollars sloshing around in defense budgets. And whenever you have that much cash in one place, oversight is never going to be perfect. That creates this fertile ground where making a buck for yourself or your company can suddenly become more important than the actual mission. It can literally eclipse everything else. And this is where it gets really serious. Because, this isn't just about some money getting wasted. It's about a total misalignment of what we're even trying to do. Think about it. When the goal shifts from let's achieve security to let's secure this contract, the whole reason for having a military starts to fall apart. Okay, so where does this paradox really show its teeth? Well, let's head into a very specific arena, the global arms market. And you shouldn't think of this like your local farmer's market. No, this is more like a massive, high-stakes international bazaar where what's being traded isn't just weapons, it's power, technology, and a whole lot of influence. So you might be thinking, how do nations even choose their weapons? Seems pretty straightforward, right? You need a new tank, you go buy the best tank you can afford. Simple. Except, it's not simple at all. The reality is this incredibly complex and kind of stressful balancing act. Yeah, there's actually a term for this. Researchers call it the defense trilemma, and it's exactly what it sounds like, a struggle between three competing goals. One, do you build your own stuff? Keep your industry independent, create jobs at home? Or two, do you just buy cheaper gear from your allies to save money? And then there's option three, forget the cost, forget where it's from, just get the absolute best military tech out there. As you can imagine, there is no easy answer here. But just when you think that balancing act is tricky enough, something else comes along and just shoves it completely off kilter. And that's corporate lobbying. The minute that comes into play, the conversation stops being about what's best for the country. Instead, the scale gets tipped hard in favor of whatever is going to make a specific company the most money. And this isn't just a theoretical problem. It creates very real systemic risks. You're talking about crazy price inflation for gear, companies basically acting like cartels to fix prices, and even worse, weapons ending up in the hands of people they were never meant for. You see middlemen getting involved just to jack up the costs. All of this just eats away at trust and ultimately at our security. But, this isn't just about buying and selling weapons anymore. There's a much more modern twist to this story, a whole new layer of complexity. And that is the outsourcing of the battlefield itself. Yeah, over the past few decades, we've seen this huge explosion in the use of what are called private military companies, or PMCs. These are contractors hired to do everything from guarding a base and handling logistics, all the way up to actual combat. And what this does is it just completely blurs the line. What's the difference between a soldier serving their country and an employee serving their company's stock price? And the difference really is night and day. Look, a state military, for all its issues, it still operates under public oversight. There's a chain of command, a system of accountability. But private contractors, they're for-profit businesses, plain and simple. And that means they often operate with way less transparency and a lot less accountability. So that leaves us with a really, really important question. When a private army is involved and something goes wrong, who's held accountable? Who's responsible? This is a huge challenge to the way we've always thought about accountability, and honestly, it's one of the most troubling parts of this whole trend. So how does this all get so baked into the system? How does this influence become so powerful? Well, let's pull back the curtain on one specific mechanism that keeps this whole engine running. It's often called the revolving door. The way it works is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. So picture this. Step one, you've got a public official, and their job is to oversee these massive defense contracts. Step two, they leave their government job. Step three, they walk right into a super high-paying job with one of the very defense contractors they used to oversee. And of course, they bring all their inside knowledge and all their personal connections with them. It gives their new company a huge, almost unfair advantage. I mean, this is a textbook conflict of interest, right? It just makes you ask the question, when they were in government, were their decisions really about keeping the country safe? Or were they maybe, just maybe, setting themselves up for that next big payday? The result is that a nation's entire defense policy could be shaped not by what's effective, but what's most profitable for a handful of powerful firms. Okay, so we've laid out a lot of pretty serious challenges here. The big question now is there anything we can do about it? Can this be fixed? Well, the good news is the research does point toward a path forward, a way we could start to get things back in balance. And pretty much all the proposed solutions boil down to one key idea: more accountability. We're talking about things like stronger laws to close all those loopholes, demanding total transparency in how contracts are awarded, giving civilian oversight groups real power, real teeth to investigate, and also working with other countries to set a higher bar for everyone involved. And all of this leaves us with one last big, challenging thought to chew on. The amount of money in the system is just mind-boggling. And let's be honest, the desire to make a profit is one of the most powerful forces on Earth. So the question is, can we ever truly separate our most important decisions about security from the relentless pursuit of private profit? And that right there is the heart of the profiteering paradox.